Hey everyone, well we are starting a new series, the garden series, and I'm super excited about it. But first today we're doing the pre-work. So I want you to pull out all of your paints. We're going to put together a palette. I'm going to show you what colors I'll be using, and you can decide what colors you want to use, and this is going to help us create really harmonious paintings. Hey everyone, well we are starting a new series, the garden series, for the next couple of weeks, several weeks. We'll see how long this goes, and it is a celebration of the summer season of gardens. My mom has a beautiful garden in her new home, and she is allowing me to be a co-gardener with her, so I'm having a blast and starting to paint through some of the things that are popping up. So I thought it might be fun if you have a garden, or maybe you just want to paint along with us. I'm going to be painting several garden watercolor sketches as the garden is flourishing, but I wanted to start off with creating our summer palette and really making sure that we're just keeping our palette nice and streamlined, because when we have a streamlined palette, it makes all of our paintings look really cohesive, right? And using that same group of colors for a group of paintings. So I have started and was just looking at some of the pictures I was taking, and I love sunflowers, and the sunflower always seems to be for me one of the that has embellishes, brings together, embraces a lot of the summer colors. There, I can talk this morning. I'm working on a sketch of the tomato patch, and so that's coming into play. But looking at all of these colors and what's starting to pop up, and I only took a couple of pictures, I should have taken some more, but I wanted again to create that summer palette for us so that we will know these are the colors that we're using. And I'm actually going to mark it down to, I'm going to grab a Micron pen or a Sharpie, whatever will work, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually call this not even my garden palette, not a summer palette, but a garden palette. And so I'm going to write up at the top, garden palette. Let's see, garden palette, and this is 2022. And then down here I will write summer. So I will know what palette it was when I come back and look at this. So traditionally summer colors, they are not as vivid and bright as spring colors, right? The sun is hitting everything with intensity, and so everything is cool, a bit more subdued than the spring vivacious wild warm colors. And so I'm going to go ahead, one of the colors that we see a lot is we see green. I am choosing a Hooker's green. Colors are typically cooler, lighter. They're not quite as front and center as we might see in other seasons, but they're beautiful, right? And just depending, there's a lot of different colors we could pull on. I am going to pull a cadmium yellow as well as a little bit of a lemon yellow. So this is my cadmium yellow light, and I'm going to put that on my palette. Isn't that beautiful? And it is not quite as cool as the lemon yellow. Let me clean up my lemon yellow. I was working on a painting. All right, let's see if I can get that nice and clean here. The lemon yellow is a little bit cooler, for sure. And I'm going to take a bunch of lemon yellow and put it right down here. Isn't that beautiful? That's going to be really, really nice for some of the blooms, for example, on the squash plant, the zucchini squash. I'm also going to grab some cadmium or orange light hue. I'm going to put that down here. We'll see a little bit of orange pop up. That's a bit warmer, but it is going to show up in our garden palette. We use the color psychology as a guide. I don't feel it as a dogma though, right? It's just a guide to help. I am going to pull the cool cadmium red medium hue. I find that cadmium deep is too cold for a summer palette. I'm going to put that one right here. It's more of what I think of when I think of like winter red, that fireman red. And so I'm going to use a medium, cadmium medium. And this is going to be really, really nice too for tomatoes, for example. And I'll show you too what it looks like when I mix a little bit of the red, cadmium red, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to dip in. I'm going to have to wash my palette after this, I can just tell, making sure you can see all of this. I'm going to take some of that lemon, mix it on the edge here, and then come over here. And isn't that like the perfect color of a tomato? Like those beefsteak tomatoes or the I think we have a tomato out here in California called the big boy tomato, and I think there's early girl tomato, right? So you can see that is that's a beautiful color also. So you can see too, these are all looking really, really nice together. I'm also going to incorporate, we have a lot of dirt in the garden, of course. And so I am just going to still be pulling off of my burnt sienna, which is one of my favorite colors. I'm going to put that up here. It is more traditionally warm, but I can also add some dark umber to it. Dark umber is pretty dark, but mixed together, they're very, very nice. So I'm going to even put a little bit even down here below my orange. That's what dark umber looks like. It is pretty dark, and but it's colder. It's a little bit more of that summer. If I mix the dark umber and the burnt sienna together, and I'm being a little bit very loose on this, but that's okay. You can kind of see where it's not as cold, and yet it's not as light too. Isn't that nice? So that is the combination right here. And I'll put this in a little bit more so you can see that. And I'll pull this up. You can see I am being pretty, you can be a little bit neater. You could like do circles, for example, and that's what burnt umber looks like all by itself, just so you can see it's definitely colder. So that's great. I also like a little bit more warmth. So pulling that in right there, making sure you can see that here. So that is what a couple of colors I'm looking. So right now this is great. So as I'm looking at my palette, and you know, as you create your own palette, maybe you have a garden, maybe you have flowers. My mom has a lot of vegetables, and then she has some marigolds in her garden. So we have some of those are things that hold up the tomatoes are red. The wire thingamajiggers. The fence behind, as you can see in this picture, is a bit more of a brown red. So I'm going to incorporate that into the garden sketches, but pay attention to whatever is in your garden and what colors you might want to incorporate. Now I am going to add a blue, because I think I may incorporate a blue as a shadow color, and I might need to add some blue and maybe some pots that we might be using as I look at some of my mom's potted plants that she has. And I think what I'm probably going to use is I'm going to use the crimson. I'm going to go down here. This is my phthalo blue, and it is a brighter blue. It's a cooler blue versus the cerulean or the cobalt blues. They tend to be more like your sky blues. This is a colder blue, and I may use that in some of my shadowing in colors. So you can see right now where we start to have really, especially with these top colors, that structure for the garden and the colors that you would often see. Now I will use this green and be mixing it with the other colors quite a bit, and so we'll all get the same variations. I'm thinking too of the squash plants with those blossoms. I'll be using these colors. We have eggplant coming in, and so eggplant, I'm going to probably, if I'm using this blue, what I'm thinking, instead of introducing the purple, I'm going to mix this blue and the red together, and I'm going to do it right on my palette here, and then I'll put it up on the board, and then we'll create, look at that really nice eggplant purple. And doesn't that really look like, I'll bring this in a little bit closer, if you can see that, the color of an eggplant. And so this would be this color and this color blended together. And of course we can always add more color as if we want to add some shadowing or whatnot. And this again is a way that I keep my actual paintings a little bit cleaner, so that we're not introducing, for example, a dioxazine purple, which has more warmth to it and different color hues in its base, and it's going to throw a different look into the painting. So again, it may look a little bit messy on your palette, but what I'm going to recommend you do after it dries is I will go back and I will write on top or around what each color is, and then the combination of colors of what they were. And you'd think you'd remember, but I'm always impressed with how quickly I can forget things. So again, that is just what I am doing to create a palette for my garden series. These are the colors that I'll be using primarily. I don't think I'm going to be merging off. I think I'm going to be sticking with it. If I added anything, I will say a permanent green would be a really nice alternative. And let me actually throw that on here. If you don't have a hooker's green, if you have a permanent green, please do use what you have. And my water is getting really dirty, but let me just add in a bit of permanent green so you can see what that's going to look like. And permanent green is more of a spring green, and it's a more opaque. You can see how it's not as transparent as my Hooker's green, but it can be very, very nice. And I may end up using it as well in some of the paintings to show you how that can add some depth with that additional green. All right, you guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope this also gets you thinking in preparation mode and start, if you have a garden, or if maybe you have a neighbor has a garden, if you're like me and I'm kind of borrowing a garden from my mom, take some pictures, because we are not going to be painting portraits like we did with our last flower series. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking multiple pictures and then creating what I can manage and achieve in a small painting, and really pulling out the different things. For example, I love this strip of leaves in the tomato plant. I really like how these tomatoes are bunched together, and I got a water stain there, so we'll have to overlook that, and combining them to create my own pictures. So I encourage you to use this garden series as your own inspiration, and at the end I'm probably going to do something like put them all together for a fun journal or whatnot. So this is a short one today. I hope you have a fabulous, fabulous Wednesday. Add a comment below if you're going to be joining me on this garden series, and if you are, what kind of vegetables will you be painting? And I'll see if I can include those, or what kind of vegetables are in your garden, and I'll see if I can include those in some of these painting series. Okay, you guys, I'm excited. I'll see you next week.